Turkey, 50 kilometers from the Syrian border. It's another 12 kilometers to Gobekli Tepe. Archaeological discovery that will change what the traditional science claim about the history of humanity. University of Chicago first explored this site in eastern Turkey, Gobekli Tepe. At that time, more recent cultural layers, including Islamic one, prevented them to dig deeper. It took another 3 decades until German archaeologist Dr. Carl Schmidt came here and decided to focus his career to this prehistorical site. In 1995, the local museum in Şanlıurfa, together with the German Archaeological Institute from Berlin, started excavation. By 1996, it was established archaeological site. And now, 20 years later, is becoming a world sensation. Gobekli Tepe has been excavating for 2 decades now. German Archaeological Institute has secured funds for another 10 years, which is a rather rare case in archaeology nowadays. When the excavation started, under several meters of soil layers, huge T-shaped monoliths were discovered. Today, the biggest are reaching 7 meters in height and several tons. What was the purpose of those T-shaped megaliths? Hard to say. We can see carvings, we can see a lot of walls, we can see shaped animals on those megaliths. According to Carl Schmidt, they served anthropomorphological purpose. They did show the bodies of humans. Hard to confirm that at this point. Now, there are some hands with 5 fingers that remind me on Easter Island. However, hard to say if they are belonging to Homo sapiens sapiens. High relief or flat carved animals, even some human bodies with the birds' heads, that predates for thousands of years art as we know it in Middle East, Northern Africa, Asia or Europe. According to the radiocarbon datings of animals and humans' bones, we are going back 12,000 years before present, even 13. And it seems that the new findings are taking us back up to 15,000 years. The notion that hunters were not capable of erecting such monuments is questionable in this case. If indeed humans built it, it would mean that everything they taught us about the advanced societies was wrong. So instead of those who were collecting plants, foods, animals, it seems that hunters were capable of erecting tens of tons megaliths. The whole site was abandoned, and it seems that the original builders wanted to hide what's been here. All is done in a hurry. They built dry walls with the backfill material and meters of this material covered those T-shaped megaliths. Interestingly enough, they did not use soil, but pieces of stones, animal bones, and human bones. Shanli Urfa, the glorious Urfa, and indeed, in eastern Turkey, 15 kilometers from this 500,000 people town, there is a location called Gobekli Tepe. Its discoverer, Dr. Klaus Schmidt, for 2 decades, has been working on a site which changes the way the mainstream historians and archaeologists see the history of humanity. In his most recent published paper, Dr. Klaus Schmidt, which he named Gobekli Tepe, the Stone Age Sanctuaries, New Results of Ongoing Excavations, he claims that Gobekli Tepe was not used for the habitation. It does have round megalithic structures, and the area is about 9 hectares. He also saying that in the conclusion, the Gobekli Tepe will not turn our picture of the world history upside down, but it will add a splendid new chapter before the period of the hunters and gatherers of the Ice Age and the new world of the food-producing cultures. Even though the role of Dr. Karl Schmidt is exceptional, and I commend him for this discovery and very precise and detailed work for 2 decades, I disagree with his conclusion. There is no chapter between hunters and food gatherers and Neolithic agricultural society. There is nothing in between. It's either or. It's very obvious that hunters did not build this site. They had no technology or engineering skills. Somebody has carefully chosen, planned, shaped, and erected pillars, tens of tons in mass. They were not hunters, they did not have tools. And they were not agricultural society, because it came much, much later. The problem with Dr. Karl Schmidt is that he's been financed by the German Archaeological Institute from Berlin and another important archaeological institution from Heidelberg for 2 decades now. They have funds for another 9 years. So those who fund you decide what kind of information will go out. They try to fit this discovery within a known history of humans, but it is impossible. It is very obvious on those huge pillars with the animals they represent that they are wild animals, millennia before domesticated animals, thousands of years before domesticated plants. It was not agricultural advanced society, and they were not hunters either. It was somebody who had technology. When we compare the hands and those long and thin fingers on some of the pillars, the only place where we have similar situation is the Eastern Island. Very unique situation, like here in Gobekli Tepe. One place in the world at one time, and they disappear. In this case, it's even more puzzling. The oldest monuments are the most advanced, the superior, the biggest, with the most beautiful art in stone. What we can say is that 1,000 later, from 11,000 to 10,000, we still have some pillars smaller in size. And again, and finally, 8,000 years ago, the whole site has been hidden, buried in small pebbles, rocks from the limestones, pieces of animal bones, and pieces of human bones. It was somebody who did not care about humans. So now, the open question is, who are the the real builders of this site. The museum in Şanlıurfa, Eastern Turkey. Gobekli Tepe is a location which, according to the results, is about 12,000 years. The leader of archaeological excavation thinks that it goes even much longer in history, 15,000 years. This is the location that puzzles the mainstream archaeologists. Some of the American anthropologists 10 years ago were saying it simply should not be there. But it is there, has to be researched. Questions need to be answered. Who? When you see those long fingers, you are aware that they do not belong to Homo sapiens sapiens. Hominids, yes, but intelligent man as you know it. No. You can see that bedrock was carefully flattened and then huge pillars were erected in one piece. Somebody was able to shape extremely hard limestone, transport it, and then erect it. And for that, you need technology. It's not enough to have a primitive labor with ropes, like the previous ideas about the builders of Egyptian pyramids. High relief on those beautiful pillars represent the art, the symbolism. Carl Schmitt thinks that it was the age when people were building those pillars as a symbol for the man or for man's gods. I disagree. People who claim that this is a temple and that this was a religious site would bring us some proof. Right now, there are no proof of this being a temple. This is not a structure. No doors, windows, roof. It is not a temple. It's a huge complex of erected pillars, and we do not know its function. It is not a religious site either. Who are the gods? The concept of God also. So we need to bring proof before Gobekli Tepe goes to our history books. Gobekli Tepe, crossroads of the Anatolia to the north and Mesopotamia to the south, of the Silky Road from China to the east to the Europe to the west, and really 3 continents meet here: Europe, Asia, and Africa. Very important place globally. The builders of Gobekli Tepe built those pillars and first circle with the biggest monuments, 7 meters in height. They are most massive. We don't see expected evolution, the growth, the progress. Instead, the first builders, 7 meters high, tens of tons in mass of those megalithic stones. 1,000 years pass, the smaller one, 3.5 meters. In another 1,000 years, they decided to hide this place, and they hid it with the backfill material and the bones. It's about 15 meters of backfill material. That was a huge construction feat. The hunters or even agricultural societies don't do that. They don't have resources. So we have similar situation like in the world of the pyramids. The biggest, the oldest, the most superior. Those that came later were more inferior. Again, the question arises: who were the builders? Mainstream science will get the blow and they will never recover.